What's up, wave makers? It's me, Mommy Tsunami. And wow, for the past like week, all I've been getting in my DMs and my comments and everything is, oh my god, Savannah, did you watch Unwell yet? Yes. Hey, yes, I did watch it. Thank you for asking. And I have a lot of stuff to say about it. So now, if you don't know, Unwell is a brand new Netflix docu-series. It goes through, like, each episode is about a different kind of strange or unusual health, lifestyle, or wellness product or procedure or something like that. It's really interesting. I've only watched the first 2 episodes so far, but, well, that's because I watched the first episode 3 times to take my notes and stuff, but I'm going to watch the rest of the season because it's actually really good and it's really interesting. It's a bunch of stuff that I'm really into, but they also detail, you know, the pros and cons of it. So, and that's kind of what was going on here in episode 1. It was extremely intriguing to me because it focuses on essential oils, which, hello, is very prominent in the industry that I associate myself with, if you could call it an industry, the anti-MLM industry. You know what I'm trying to say. You know, what I really actually like about it is that I can't honestly say that it is an anti-MLM documentary, because it's not. It's kind of edited that way, so maybe. But they do at least give an opportunity to the opposing side to kind of speak openly and explain why they're part of the movement and they do the things they do. And we hear so often that people fall into using essential oils because they're just desperately looking for an alternative to their health and wellness routine. More likely that they're looking for something cheaper or something natural instead of modern medicine. The desperation for an answer to whatever ails them, mixed with misinformation being spread and naivety, are definitely some factors to why people get pulled into these kind of things. And MLMs, but I mean, even more specifically, this kind of holistic, natural lifestyle of essential oils. Now, it seems like the people who are interviewed in this docu-series who are essential oil skeptics are from a background of science and research. You don't have to be a scientific researcher to understand that there's a ton of misinformation out there about essential oils. But there truly is a link between skeptics, and that's usually that they believe studies that are done by respectable, educated professionals than what some quack says on the internet. And believe me, I would love to believe that essential oils can do all the things that pro-oilers, what would you call them, what they say that they can do. If consuming a few drops of specific oil per day would cure cancer, shit, man, like, I would love to believe that. That would be amazing. But the fact of the matter is, there is no legitimate scientific evidence for any of the stuff that they claim that essential oils can help with. And Karen would rather take the anecdote of some stranger on the internet over actual scientific studies because she likes the results more than the other. I mean, it's confirmation bias, I guess. Anyway, let's jump into some key parts of this episode. But I would like to say, just watching this video, I don't think is enough. I think you should watch the whole episode because, first of all, it's really good and really entertaining, but it offers a much fuller picture than what we're gonna go on to talk about here. I just want to touch on some key points. The first person we're introduced to here is Amy Kwarberg, a holistic nurse and aromatherapist. She's shown speaking to a man who just got out of surgery about using essential oils to help through their healing process.
Part of what our department can offer you is things to help you relax or help with pain.
Anxiety is my problem right now.
I've got some essential oils we can offer that can be specifically helpful for not only anxiety, but pain.
And it's no secret that essential oils actually have been shown to assist in relaxation and reducing anxiety. Like, hello, welcome to aromatherapy. That's just kind of how it works. There's been multiple studies that suggest this. Like, for example, lavender oil contains compounds that may have analgesic, did I say that right? I don't know, and anti-inflammatory benefits. Although the most recent study I could find did say that despite all the studies that we have, all the information that we have, there's still insufficient evidence to be able to say this with certainty. In this more recent study I was reading, it wasn't even done on humans, it was done on rats. And we see that a lot with essential oil studies. Not to mention, there's still no evidence that a lot of the findings that you see in these studies can be replicated inside the human body. These are done in lab environments. A 2012 placebo-controlled study done on humans who have been diagnosed with migraine headaches concluded that lavender oil may assist in managing migraines. Key focus on the word may. But nonetheless, there is evidence here to prove this. Among other essential oils, there are some studies that offer evidence to a lot of the things we already know about essential oils. So it's important to keep that in mind. Now, I'm not saying that they will cure your migraine, and none of the studies are saying that either. They're just saying they help assist in relaxing and possibly pain management. Amy says to become a certified clinical aromatherapist, it was a year of study. However, I found Amy on LinkedIn, right? And she doesn't list this entire year of study in her education section at all. My goal here was to find out where she got certified and then to find out how legitimate the certification was, but she doesn't even list it. You'd think that someone who considers themselves to be a certified aromatherapist and holistic nurse would list her qualifications somewhere, but I don't know. And with all of this, the NAHA, or the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy, has a list of schools approved to offer aromatherapy certification. So I was curious, because on this list from the NAHA, I did find a school in a town that is about 2 hours away from me, Sedona. In this town in specific, first of all, it's like one of my favorite places in the world, but second of all, they're very known for their like spirituality. Like you can take vortex tours, and there's like palm readers and fortune tellers and shit, and like aura photographers on every corner. Lots of shops that sell crystals and things like that. Like it's one of those towns. So this piqued my interest, right? So I'm looking at the courses that they offer. The course is 80 hours altogether. I'm not sure how many days this is spread across. And then after all is said and done, your certificate in holistic aromatherapy and accreditation with the NAHA can cost you between $500 and $700. There are a higher level of certificates you can earn with them for obviously for an additional cost to further your education. But yeah, it seems like you can get an NAHA approved certificate for well under $1,000, which is pretty damn cheap for a school if you ask me, even just like a trade school. So by NAHA standards, I guess this is as legit as you can get, having a certificate like this, but by legitimate university degree studies standards, it doesn't mean shit. So I question the legitimacy behind the coursework offered in these holistic schools, because for all we know, they could be getting their education materials through a bunch of other quacks. We don't know. And with how cheap it is, I'd be lying if I said I didn't consider being like, I can get my aromatherapy certification. I could totally go to this school and learn all this shit so I actually have a leg to stand on when I'm talking about these kind of things. I mean, honestly, I might just do it for fun one of these days. It's cheap, but the only problem is, depending on how often I'd have to drive the 2 hours to Sedona and then back. But yeah, it would be really interesting, like, Anti-MLMer becomes a certified aromatherapist. That's my next video series.
Hey guys, it's Editing Savannah from the future here. I just wanted to throw this in here before someone leaves this comment. There is one place that you can get an actual degree or diploma in aromatherapy, and it's at the American College of Healthcare Sciences, where you can get certificates and diplomas. Mainly it'd be like a Master of Science in aromatherapy, but they also have like a Bachelor for Integrative Health Sciences with aromatherapy specialization. But literally this is the only place that I can find that is like the only legitimately nationally recognized accredited degree in aromatherapy that you can get. And like I said, it's a bachelor's degree up to a master's, so it's years of school. It's much more legitimate than these certificates from these like natural holistic schools that are also listed on this website. This is the only one that I think might be a little bit legitimate, and that's just because whoever is studying this has been studying actual science up until the point of specializing in this.
First one was better.
First one is, all right. And that would have been my first choice, and you know which one it is? It's called orthopedic oil. And this one is made specifically for orthopedic issues like musculoskeletal aches and pains. And look at that, that's the one you chose.
Go figure.
The body doesn't lie, right? It tells you what you need.
The body doesn't lie. It tells us what we need. That is so quack science if I've ever heard it. Just because this dude liked the smell of one of them over the other. Yeah, my body likes the smell of pizza more than it does fucking raw carrots. So does that mean my body is telling me that I need to consume more pizza and less carrots? You know, the logic there is just kind of busted. But to be fair, the logic in all of these pro-oily babes is busted also.
We have essential oils offered in a variety of ways, primarily through inhalation, putting a couple drops on a cotton ball, We also can use it for massage in lotions. And then we also have oshibori, which is really a hot washcloth. And so it's made to make you feel better without any needles involved.
The props I will give to this woman is that she's listing the ways in which she says that the essential oils can be used, and none of it is ingesting them. We'll touch on that more later, and also today, Natalia Taylor uploaded her last, I guess, episode in the series she was doing about Young Living, and it offered a lot of interesting perspectives and information on the ingestion of these essential oils, and I guess I'll talk about that later when we get to it, but it's very interesting. And I think, honestly, it's fair to use the oils in the way that this woman is using them, because unless you have some kind of allergy to the oils, they're being used in a pretty non-invasive way. Aromatherapy and massage are really common uses. You can go to any spa and you're going to be rubbed down with some sort of essential oil. They're going to have diffusers going in the air. That's just like how these places work. They can be used safely in these ways.
One of the things we see often in the hospital is the pain and anxiety relationship, or a loop. As pain goes higher, anxiety goes and rises with it. Breathing it in. So as we can bring the anxiety down, that often relaxes the body enough that they can bring the pain level down. We've got such a opioid epidemic and dependence on pharmaceuticals to fix all our problems. And I don't want to say that, oh, essential oils alone is going to treat that pain that you're having. But an essential oil in a combination with perhaps something pharmaceutical that's not as strong as an opioid together can enhance each other and improve the effectiveness of a medication.
Again, I think this statement has some merit to it. She's not suggesting replacing modern medicine with essential oils, but she's suggesting using them in conjunction with each other. I don't know if there's any like tangible scientific evidence behind her theories and what she's talking about here, but if the use of an essential oil combined with something less intense than like an opioid for pain relief, like if that would eliminate the need for someone who might be subject to an opioid addiction, like if that's a possibility, I think that's amazing. We probably need more studies on it, but if that's the case, if that helps people in that way, I think that's great too, because clearly there's an opioid crisis in this country, but we gotta have the science to back that up before I back that horse, you know what I mean? But in theory, it's fine. I agree with it. And not to demonize opioids, because they do help people tremendously, but they, you know, they're highly addictive. We know all this. It can interfere with people's lives.
We're going to get you through this.
Yes, you and me and God.
That's
and
right.
frankincense.
And frankincense.
If it was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me.
That's right. I love that.
This is a very serious misconception regarding essential oils and the Bible that oil touters love to shout from the rooftops, that essential oils were used in biblical times. More specifically, that these oils were mentioned over 200 times in the Bible. This is a myth. It is not true. Still, despite this fact, oily mamas like to say that essential oils were very commonly used in biblical times. Literally any Bible-thumping oily mom has said this. I guarantee it. It's not true. The passage that's most commonly referenced is John 12:3, and it says the following: "Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the odor of the ointment." For reference, the verse that I just quoted is from the King James Version, which is the first ever English translation of the Bible. I use this version every time I throw out Bible verses in my videos because it's essentially the least watered down translation that we have access to. Other English translations were based off of the King James Version, and there's so many of them that eventually it kind of just turns into a game of telephone at that point. Each translation after the King James Version is just up to the interpretation of one imperfect human to another. So while the King James Version is very Old Englishy, it gives the most pure English translation that we can access, in my opinion. But anyway, this specific verse says ointment of spikenard. Ointment does not necessarily equal oil. Other translations of this exact verse will call it a perfume, and some do call it an oil. Again, different English translations come from human interpretation from the English translation before it. But for the sake of this argument, let's say that Mary did use an actual oil on the feet of Jesus. What this would have likely referred to is an oil like infused with spikenard. This kind of oil infusion is still used today, like in culinary uses. Like if you see a bottle bottle of olive oil with a sprig of rosemary in it or something like that. This is very different chemically to a modern day distilled essential oil. While the technology probably did exist back then, the method had not been discovered or invented yet. So there's no way modern day spikenard essential oil is what was used in this verse or any other verse in the Bible. A really great example of this is rye, which we know is a grain used for baking bread and stuff. But if you distill rye, you get whiskey. Two totally different chemical compounds. You cannot compare a bottle of olive oil with a sprig of lavender in it to lavender essential oil. They're just not the same thing. So this argument that oil lovers spread around all over the place is nothing but a logical fallacy and simply untrue. And hey, not to mention that just because something is in the Bible, it doesn't give it any validity. But they do this because it's a marketing technique. Saying that Jesus was a user of essential oils draws in Christians who wish to find themselves closer to God. They want to be more Christ-like in their lives. That's exactly it.
Some of it's placebo effect. It totally could be. But so is medication. And we've done a lot of trials on that.
Hey, lady, do you know what the placebo effect actually is? Placebos are designed not to have any therapeutic value. Saying that medication in general is also placebo is such bullshit. Tell a diabetic that the insulin that they shoot up every single day is just placebo. Tell someone who is HIV positive that their AZT is just a placebo. Are you kidding me? But she literally just admitted that the effects of essential oils are often attributed to the placebo effect. Surprise, surprise. And then she tried to justify it by saying that that's all medications are too. Next, we're introduced to a mother of a 15-year-old autistic child. She says she doesn't know much about essential oils, but she likes that they're plant-based. In many circumstances, something being plant-based is a great thing. But just because something is plant-based doesn't necessarily mean that it's any better for you than something synthetic, for example. There are plenty of examples of this, especially in modern medicine. The mother explains that she's tried so many different types of therapies to help her, and now she's looking into the benefits of aromatherapy. As a mother, I can relate. If my daughter needed help with something, I'd do anything in my power to help her. This family has clearly been through a lot. They've tried a lot of different methods to coping with their daughter's condition, and this clearly isn't meant to be the end-all be-all for this family. She certainly isn't expecting her daughter to be cured of autism. I think this is actually pretty responsible parenting, and any of us in her shoes would probably do the same thing to help our children. So then we're introduced to the clinical aromatherapist that's guiding the family through their aromatherapy journey. And I know you're all expecting me to roast this woman, but I respect her. She clearly states that she can think of very few circumstances where anyone should be ingesting an essential oil. She cites instances where they can slowly eat away at your mucous membranes and cause internal damage. These are real things that have happened following the regular ingestion of essential oils. This is coming from someone who has been a clinical aromatherapist for 17 years. Someone who is presumably more educated than most people are on essential oils. If she's so sure that you shouldn't be ingesting them, then why are there other less educated people who loudly disagree with her? And with this, I can talk a little bit about Natalia Taylor's video. I'm actually just gonna put in a few clips here that kind of elaborate a little bit more on the whole mucous membrane thing.
I've had a number of clients who have had lemon essential oil in their glasses of water, have added it pretty regularly. They'll add it to their water bottle, they'll take it with them to the gym, take it to yoga. Unfortunately, what that lemon is doing is it's eroding that mucous membrane. It can take years to recover that damage, and you can still end up with scar tissue that's going to cause problems for the rest of your life.
I don't have much experience with autism at all, or those who fall on the spectrum, but it's common knowledge that certain sensory stimuli can be beneficial to them, not necessarily just smells. Physically feeling certain things and textures and whatever, like that's really helpful to some people with autism. In this particular case, the daughter is seen carrying around and sniffing a bottle of sunscreen. She clearly finds comfort in smells, so it only makes sense that there might be an essential oil that can induce the same comfort that she feels when she's sniffing a bottle of lotion. I don't see a problem with using essential oils in this way as long as the person isn't having some kind of allergic reaction to it. In fact, I can see how they can be beneficial. Laura talks about how some oils can assist in the quality of sleep. Well, we know some people find certain smells relaxing. You sleep well if you're relaxed. It all makes sense, but yeah, this is an example of how essential oils should be responsibly used, in my opinion. The next character we're introduced here is an absolute doozy. The amount of anger I harbored watching his segments were like physically making me ill. If you're part of my audience, I think you'll feel the same way. Anyway, this is Dr. Z. The first moments we see of him on screen, he's spraying peppermint and clove oil in the faces of his children to calm them down when they're being too rowdy. Yo, have you ever gotten peppermint oil in your eye? That shit burns so bad. But yeah, let's just spray it in our kids' faces. They clearly love it. Dr. Z runs a blog called Natural Living Family with his wife, who's a former Miss America pageant queen. What the fuck is even happening here? Is she okay? The classic upper-class white American family with their perfect outward appearance and perfect kids and perfect house and perfect life. They're the kind of family that you immediately go, okay, something's off here. What are they hiding? No one is this perfect. He's a chiropractor. Are you surprised? And boasts about making 7 figures a year using his blog and selling his books and courses. He got his aromatherapy certification from the Atlantic Institute of Aromatherapy, which is another NAHA approved school. This school's first and like most basic level course is 300 hours for $1,600. They also offer courses to further the education, but it's weird that there's such a big price and like time difference in between the two schools that I looked at here, when they both essentially offer the same certification. One was only 80 hours, one is 300. Like, I wonder what the difference is, but clearly the curriculum isn't regulated from one school to another. Again, I'm skeptical about the coursework in these NAHA approved schools. He says his goal is to teach people how to safely use essential oils while also preaching about how beneficial it is to ingest them. He literally wrote a book called The Essential Oil Diet. It's so bad that he is seen making a mixture in a blender for his 3-year-old daughter that he calls Elsa tea, which we see him putting multiple drops of essential oils in the blender for the Elsa tea for a 3-year-old child, for a literal baby. With the cases we've seen of what kind of damage essential oils can do internally, it's to adults, you know, who regularly ingest essential oils. Imagine what that can do for a baby. His justification for this is that anything labeled as natural flavors contains essential oils. To an extent, this is kind of true.
Many aromatherapists claim you should not ingest essential oils, and I'll argue this till I'm blue in the face.
Keep it, do it again. Okay.
I mean, what do you think flavors your favorite soda pop and ice cream? So many things that are naturally flavored are essential oil based. That's right there on the Food and Drug Administration website. You can look it up.
I looked it up. The FDA has very strict guidelines on which plants can be used to flavor things, how they're allowed to be used, how they must be labeled, how much they have to be diluted, certain, I don't know, you wouldn't call it doses, but you know what I mean. Lots of rules. For example, the FDA says that if only one ingredient is used for natural flavor, then it has to be listed by its common name. So if something's flavored with peppermint oil, it would say natural peppermint flavor. But according to the FDA, natural flavors doesn't just mean essential oils. It's kind of a long definition, but I'm gonna read it to you for what it says exactly. The term natural flavor or natural flavoring means the essential oil, oleoresin, essence or extractive, protein hydrolysate, distillate, or any product of roasting, heating, or enzymolysis, which contains the flavoring constituents derived from a spice, fruit or fruit juice, vegetable or vegetable juice, edible yeast, herb, bark, bud, root, leaf, or similar plant material, meat, seafood, poultry, eggs, dairy products, or fermentation products thereof, whose significant function in food is flavoring rather than nutritional. When's the last time that you ever heard of egg essential oil? It's not a thing. Natural flavors come from a lot of different sources and processes. Not to mention, in this one drink he made for his 3-year-old daughter, he puts at least 2 drops of peppermint oil in it. There could be other oils that he puts in that they just didn't show, that they cut out. There's clearly other ingredients in this mixture. One serving of food containing natural flavors that are FDA approved isn't gonna have like even just 2 entire drops of essential oil in it. Dude, peppermint oil is so crazy. One time, I put 1 drop of peppermint oil in my bath water and it made my entire body feel cold, even though the water was like steaming hot. It's so potent and so concentrated. They are not putting that much of it in our foods. It is a very small amount. Meanwhile, this guy's just like dumping it in for his baby. And then he goes into his history as someone who became addicted to hard drugs in his teens, a sob story for sure. And then when he was 23, he was suddenly overcome with a spiritual revelation and he became a Christian, and then his life was perfect. Just listen to this manipulative language.
So when I was just about 23 years old, I had a spiritual revelation. I was blind and then I could see, and I became a Christian. And within a moment, the addiction, the depression, the anxiety, the suicidal thoughts all went away. I can't explain it other than it was a miracle. I'm a living miracle.
And Lord, we just know people's lives are going to be transformed. The suffering that they're experiencing will be eased.
And of course, as most oil heads do, he starts spouting off biblical essential oil nonsense that we've already discussed. He literally drops John 12:3, the verse that all the oily babes in all of the oily land like to drop.
And when you look at the Bible, when you look at the references to gold, frankincense, and myrrh, to Mary, the prostitute, anointing Jesus's feet, what do you think that was? It's an essential oil-based extract.
This is the shit they fall back on. And their arguments regarding the use of essential oils in the Bible are so quickly and easily disproved.
When I started looking at the research and seeing the direct impact that essential oils have on the limbic system, where your mood, your memory, your emotions lie, balancing blood pressure, helping with the symptoms related to a number of diseases, including cancer, I was astounded.
Let's talk about this claim. People who are really deep into the essential oil lifestyle say that essential oils have research that proves that it can cure many ailments, including cancer. Dr. Z claims to have seen the documentation.
And many people ask, can essential oils cure cancer? Well, I'll get crucified for this. I've seen documentation, I've seen the reports. They had cancer, they use essential oils, now they don't have cancer. How am I gonna say that's not possible?
Well, where is it, my dude? Because respectable researchers in the scientific community have never seen it. The validity behind this whole essential oils cure cancer, it's very thin. There have been studies that show essential oils contribute to cancer cell death, but those results were found in vitro, meaning it was done in a petri dish, in a laboratory environment. Other studies have been done on mice and rats. And while some scientists would say that they have produced some encouraging data, we have never been able to replicate these kind of results inside the human body. Scientifically, there is no proof that essential oils cure anything. There is no proof that the way we are using essential oils today contributes to eliminating cancer from the human body. They have yet to find a way to safely and effectively treat cancer in a living patient using essential oils. The amount that someone would need to use to destroy a tumor, for example, could be toxic to the rest of the body as well. I mean, literally, I guarantee if I put some cancer cells in a petri dish and dumped fucking Drano on it, they'd probably die too, but no one is saying that you should be ingesting Drano to cure your cancer. Do you see what I'm saying? The fact is that these waters have not been thoroughly explored and we can't be making these kinds of claims based on what we know. There is insufficient evidence, point blank. Now, using essential oils, we've been able to combat cancer symptoms like chemotherapy symptoms like pain, nausea, anxiety, and they can be effective. We've kind of already gone through this a little bit, but to say that essential oils cured somebody's cancer is simply untrue. This kind of anecdotal evidence may be the result of correlation versus causation. They had cancer, they used essential oils, now they don't have cancer. That is correlating the use of essential oils with the cure of cancer, and the two may not be mutually exclusive. He brags about how relatable his family is to other people, but then also says, you can afford to take our masterclass if you just stop drinking Starbucks for a few weeks.
I gotta say, my wife and I, we're just as real as anyone else is. And I think that, out of everything, is the reason why our online popularity has soared, because people can relate to us. And that's it. We're not trying to pretend like we're something that we're not.
A few moments later.
You know, we keep our prices so affordable. I mean, our most expensive masterclass is $77 for digital access. Like, anyone can afford that. Even if you're on food stamps, government assistance. Hey, stop drinking Starbucks for 2 weeks in a row and there's $75, right? That's our masterclass.
The crazy thing is that MLM Huns use this logic, this exact argument, all the time to recruit people to their scheme. It's funny though, because this dude actually isn't an MLM distributor for essential oils. He says it's illegal to make all of the insane health claims that he makes while also selling essential oils. But as long as he's not selling them, he's got the freedom of speech to say whatever crazy quack science bullshit he wants. Isn't that wild? And then he demonizes the FDA for doing this, even though they do it because false medical claims can literally kill people.
What the Food and Drug Administration has done in the United States has made it illegal, actually illegal, to make any sort of medical claims associated with essential oils if you're selling an essential oil. And so that's one reason why we don't sell essential oils. This system has been designed to keep away this message. But we have the freedom of speech to share what we do. Really, by God's grace, we're protected.
Yes, the system is designed to keep this message out because it's harmful to public health. This is irresponsible misuse of information, or misinformation, I guess. However, he says his Natural Living Family is a for-profit ministry. Have you ever heard anything so fucking ridiculous in your life? First of all, the existence of any for-profit ministry is gross, but he's literally building his $1 million business on fake news with no scientific backup about essential oils and God, and people are buying it, despite the fact that so many things that he says can be easily disproven with science in basic human history. So then next in the episode, we are introduced to Dr. Joy Bowles, and she basically goes on to talk about a lot of what I just talked about and discredits so much of what Dr. Z just got done saying. It's glorious.
You get quite a lot of serious claims being made. You know, essential oils can cure X, Y, and Z. They can cure cancer, blah, blah, blah. There's not the clinical evidence. There just is not. People say there's lots of studies. I used to think that was impressive too, but just because bacteria, rats, cells respond to the essential oils, it doesn't actually correlate necessarily with the human experience. Using essential oils to help people cope with their pain, helping them cope with their anxiety, helping them cope with their insomnia. And notice I use the word help them cope with, not cure. Proper aromatherapy isn't claiming to cure anybody.
And then our next character is another doozy. This is a story we're all here for. I regularly make anti-MLM content, and this is where the MLM stuff actually begins. We are introduced to Allison with a shot of her dropping 3 drops of essential oil straight into her mouth. And then we find out that she's a doTERRA wellness advocate. Go figure. She goes through all the kinds of things that she teaches in her oils class, including serving water with lemon, lime, and orange essential oils mixed into it, immediately setting the precedent that essential oils are safe to ingest. They're not. We know they're not. Please do not ingest essential oils, no matter what Allison and her best friend Karen tell you. Now back to Natalia Taylor's video that she just uploaded today. This is very interesting to me because up until this point, and Natalia says they started saying this like right after she started uploading videos, which does not surprise me, but I'm just gonna input this part of her video here.
Holy shit. You guys are not gonna believe this. So up until this point, Young Living has been informing people to ingest their oils and standing with that. It says it on their website with their Vitality line and on their YouTube channel where they literally give you tutorials on how to drink their oils. On their YouTube channel, their most recent video, someone left a comment asking, can these be ingested? If so, how much? And the official Young Living YouTube account replied and said, we only recommend our products for topical use only at this time. At this time. And to follow the instructions on the bottle. Which is it, Young Living? Can we drink the oils? Can we not drink the oils? Obviously, we can't. What you're doing is extremely shady, and I can't tell where you guys stand with all of this. You've contradicted yourself time and time again, and then you tell people to drink your oils, and now you don't want them to. Young Living, you better make up your freaking mind, because this is serious. These These are people's lives and people's health at risk. I just thought that was really interesting that now all of a sudden, at this time, conveniently right after we started this series, Young Living has now officially said you should not be ingesting their oils.
Young Living themselves, the official Young Living YouTube channel, is saying that they do not suggest ingesting any oils at this time, even though they have the Vitality line that's FDA compliant, where you can ingest essential oils. Now they're saying, no, you shouldn't even ingest those. And I know that this story in particular that we're talking about here is doTERRA, but they generally run on the same wavelength, you know? It's big for Young Living to be like, actually, maybe don't ingest our oils, because they've been telling people to do it for years. Gary Young told people to do it for years. She's having people pass around a bottle of undiluted orange oil and having them put it directly onto their skin, which is very advised against by medical professionals. Essential oils are so concentrated that they need to be diluted with a carrier oil before they make contact with your skin. So again, this is giving like really horrible advice. Her story, like her backstory, is kind of infuriating from a mother's perspective. So she was diagnosed with a brain tumor when she was 13. She went through an 8-hour surgery until they reached part of the tumor that they said was inoperable, so they closed her back up. She says chemo wasn't an option for this tumor, and the idea of radiation scared her and her mom. So her mom started treating her with essential oils orally and topically. Again, this girl was 13 years old, and this was being done behind her doctor's back. Like, she openly admits that she would not tell the doctor that they were doing this out of fear that the neurosurgeon would call CPS. And a lot of the claims that she makes here are actually ones that we discussed a while back in a video of mine that aged very badly that I made in January of this year, 2020, where a doTERRA rep is claiming that essential oils were going to stop the coronavirus. We know this is not true. It is not true, obviously. At this point now, welcome to August 2020, we know that essential oils don't do shit for coronavirus, because if they did, it wouldn't be a problem in America. But the lady was so misinformed, and through all of her claims, similar to the ones that Allison makes here, I found that, again, these antibacterial, antiviral properties are said to exist in certain oils. It's done in vitro, in a petri dish, in a laboratory environment, like we've already discussed. These same exact results that these people like to preach have never been scientifically proven to have been able to be replicated inside of a human body. There is no proof that ingesting any of these oils will pass its antiviral, anti-inflammatory, whatever the fuck effects unto you. Regarding her secret use of essential oils, this quote is absolutely wild.
I took frankincense and clove oils, which have anti-cancer, antioxidant properties. And then also oils like oregano or tea tree help fight viruses and bacteria. Every couple of hours, I was taking some form of essential oil internally or topically. With every MRI, my doctor would just say, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see you in 6 months. My mom was very careful that she never brought up that we were using the essential oils. If she had told my neurosurgeon that, he could have easily called Child Protective Service and said, this mom is trying to avoid radiation. It was this big secret that we were just hiding throughout the whole process.
Also, are we to assume that the neurosurgeon offered no other treatment options besides radiation? They just let her waltz out of the hospital after having her brain operated on for 8 hours, just like, all right, peace. Good luck! I find that really hard to believe. And the whole essential oil saved my life thing is another case of correlation versus causation as a logical fallacy. She never actually says whether or not the piece of the tumor that was left over ever went away, or if it just stopped growing, or never grew back, or, you know, what have you. She never mentions that. But there are likely other factors at play here that could contribute to whatever medical results she had regarding this tumor. But because it's much easier to say it was definitely the essential oils that did it, now please buy them from me. Money please! You know, she's gonna make sales off of that kind of statement. She's asked about what kind of oils can treat diabetes as well as adrenal issues, but she's not really shown specifically answering them.
My husband has diabetes. Okay. So I'm interested in things that might help his pancreas, and I'm having lymph issues, so like adrenal, kidney, things like that.
One of the most common questions I get people ask with doTERRA is they say, hey, is there an oil for this? I would say 99.9% of the time, The answer is yes.
I can imagine she did spout off some oils, but for her own legal protection, the show left those out because she could literally be prosecuted for answering that question. That's just my guess. She's not a medical professional. She has no ground to be giving medical advice, and nonetheless, false medical advice with no scientific backing. Like, she could really be in legal hot water if what she actually answered these questions with was shown here.
I love citrus oils because they make you happy. Peppermint oil helps with headaches. Frankincense is really good for cancers, cuts, scrapes, emotional issues.
Frankincense is good for cancer. Oh, and also scrapes. Okay, slow down, lady. The severity between the things that you just listed are very widely ranged. And hey, it should be known by now that if someone says one thing can cure a bunch of different ailments, it's considered a cure-all. And if there's one thing I know about cure-alls, it's that they cure nothing.
We're not supposed to say that essential oils cured this disease. That is due to the FDA. Our healthcare system doesn't really like essential oils. It takes away from our big pharma and all of those sales.
Here we have another example of the FDA being demonized because they won't let them make false health claims. She blames Big Pharma for this. Of course she does. And here's my argument for that. If your essential oil really did work, why wouldn't the FDA regulate that as a drug? Why wouldn't they utilize them, study them extensively, mark up the price 10,000% like they do for everything else, and sell it as a medication? Like, that's a whole other market that they could really sink their teeth into if Big Pharma was really like, it's all about the profit. What's stopping the FDA from being like, hey, those essential oils work too, but we're not gonna touch those because they're gonna take all our money away? It makes no sense. Like, it literally makes no sense. There's no reason why they can't be regulating them if they actually work. But the thing is that scientifically they don't. And if they do, we haven't discovered that yet. But it's natural. You can't regulate a plant as a medicine. Well, actually, natural ingredients are actually used in some medications that are regulated by the FDA. They're just the ones that have been proven to be scientifically effective. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that these people are dying on a hill that has no evidence, and it makes no sense. Logically, their way of thinking and reasoning is beyond flawed.
A 15 milliliter bottle like this has 250 drops in it. So it may look like, wow, I'm spending $20 for that. But if you think about it in drops per cent, most oils are about 5 to 7 cents a drop. They're really a very inexpensive way to take care of our health.
I love that this documentary literally calls her out here. She's like, oh, $20 is really nothing to be spending on oils. Well, yeah, that's doTERRA's very, very cheapest end. Allison, you're not fooling anyone, and the production team didn't want you fooling their audience either.
And so ask yourself for a second, are you and your family any healthier because of traditional medical care?
Are we any healthier with traditional medical care? Do you mean like modern medicine? Because yeah, I would definitely say so. We as a human race are outliving every generation that came before us, except I think recently they said that we're losing years off of our lives. But in general, we're outliving our ancestors by many years. And most of that is thanks to technological advancements that have made medical research more attainable and widely available and understood to us more. But people have been using essential oils for thousands of years, or I guess at least 1,000 years, since they haven't been distilled for all of history, but you know what I mean. Well, why weren't they lengthening our lifespan 1,000 years ago, Allison? Why all of a sudden are they more effective than modern medicine? How can you say that they are the reason that we're healthier, despite the boatloads of evidence that points to actual science and medicinal advancement? If essential oils were contributing to our wellness the way that these people say that it is, we would have been having very long lifespans as late as 1,000 years ago, but that's just not the case.
With the doTERRA business, I have definitely been very blessed. I have reached the rank of diamond with doTERRA. So diamond is one of the top ranks. My paychecks now are over $20,000 every single month. I became a six-figure income with doTERRA.
And of course, she has to boast about her $20,000 per month paycheck as if this is a typical result of someone being involved in doTERRA. It's very misleading and very predatory. Please understand that this is not something that you should come to expect when you join an MLM. She is the 1%. I think as a matter of fact, she's like the top 0.001% or some shit like that.
The larger someone's team is, the more lives you've touched. That's where the paycheck really starts to grow.
Interesting. Did you just admit, Allison, that you make more money with your MLM by recruiting people onto your team more than you would without growing a team? Where have I heard that definition before? Oh, that's right, the FTC. The FTC defines a pyramid scheme as a company where you make more money by recruiting people than you do by selling the product alone. But I guarantee this woman is also one of those people spouting, this isn't a pyramid scheme. Pyramid schemes are illegal. Yeah, you know what else is illegal? Murder. And that shit still exists too. Logical fallacies, ahoy. Allison is then shown talking to one of her recruits where she's making all of the excuses a failing Hun will make to their upline, and then she ends it with,
I am just not capable of doing 14 enrollments a month yet. Maybe eventually, but I am just not there yet.
I know the builders will definitely come, for sure.
Yeah, it's just time. They'll show up when God wants them to. And this is the best career on the planet. I just need to get it profitable.
Well, is it really a career if you're not making money from it? This poor girl is in the midst of being brainwashed and she doesn't even realize it. Like, it's straight up sad. The next woman, Rachel, alongside our old friend Dr. Joy, goes into detail about MLMs and how it's strange that the two major companies in the essential oil industry are multi-level marketing companies. It's no coincidence.
What's problematic with the multi-level marketing companies is that they're actually proposing this aromatic lifestyle. You've got to have the essential oils in your laundry detergent, you've got to have it in your cooking, you've got to have it in your air, you've got to vaporize it, you've got to put it in your cleaning products. And the cumulative amount, there's no evidence of that being safe.
The Huns would probably argue that there's no proof that it's not safe for humans, even though there are plenty of documented cases that have shown otherwise. But okay, Karen. Rachel went to the annual Young Living convention that they hold in Utah each year. The footage they show here is kind of crazy. Why do we need fire dancers and pyrotechnics for this? This is so culty, it's almost unreal. And then she goes into detail about the fraud of a man that Gary Young was. I have a video series, well, it's 2 videos, but they're pretty long, that really dives deep into the details of Gary Young, how he's been arrested, his legal mishaps, how he murdered his newborn daughter, how his right-hand man murdered his grandfather in the 70s. A lot of crazy stuff. That video series of mine is linked down below, and I know I'm always going to say I link things below and I forget all the time, but I promise these links are down below if you want to learn more about Gary Young. There's lots of information there you can click down below. This next woman, who is remaining anonymous in the series, goes into her story about her experience with being in Young Living. And as unfortunate as it is to say this, her story is one that we've heard 1,000 times. Stay-at-home mom, recruited by a friend from high school who told her it was the easiest job in the world and all she had to do was talk about oils and people would buy them. She told her she can still work from home and be with her children. She bought books and promo materials. She spent a few $1,000s on oils until she finally realized that this business opportunity was just a bunch of lies and manipulation on a naive mom who wanted to make money from home while she gets to stay home with her babies. This all probably sounds familiar because it's the same story that belongs to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of former MLM distributors. They mentioned the very well-known class action lawsuit against Young Living for being a pyramid scheme. I believe that by now there are actually multiple class action lawsuits against Young Living for the same reason. The attorney behind one of these class action lawsuits is featured here. Here's how he describes pyramid schemes.
Pyramid schemes operate by building down lines. It's the lifeblood of a pyramid scheme. If you're a member and you go out and you get someone to join Young Living, they become part of your down line. Revenue generated by them, you get to share in that. But that's not the real crux of the money. Here's the real crux of the money. Once you're in the pyramid, you have to, every month, fulfill your personal volume. It was $100 per month on inventory. Whether you ever sell those products or not, That $100 monthly feeds the upline, the upline, the upline until you get to the very top of the pyramid, which is not just where most of the money is made, it's really the only place the money's made.
Again, this is another example of MLMs having a product does not immediately save them from a pyramid scheme status. It simply does not. We've seen examples of this famously with Herbalife and more recently with Advocare and Success by Health just last year. The attorney here makes a really good point about what happens when the pyramid collapses. It's pretty messed up when you think about it this way. Distributors and MLMs like to say that they want to share the gift of the business opportunity with people they care about. It's highly encouraged that you sign up your best friend, your sister, your mom, your aunt, your grandma, etc. So while they like to say that this is a gift to those people, what's really happening is that when the pyramid collapses, you bring your loved ones down with you. And that's really what it is, isn't it? It screws over more people than it has ever given financial stability to. And these are the stories that we actually need to be shouting from every mountaintop, because these are much more common than those success stories that get regurgitated and recycled over and over and over again on social media. The last woman here is a pretty sad story. Someone who took medical advice from randos on Facebook and it ended up causing her actual physical harm. Now, this woman doesn't actually call out the company that she was working for, but through a quick stint of research, I found that she was part of doTERRA when this all went down. She was recruited into the company where she was told that the oils were so pure that you can ingest them. So she started drinking lemon oil in her water every day, applying lavender and others topically, diffusing all kinds all day, every day. So then she gets a small rash on her forearm, and of course, what do when you're an oily mama who is drinking the essential oil Kool-Aid? You go to Facebook and you say, hey, I have this rash, what's gonna be good for it? And of course everyone's like, well, it's definitely not from the oils. And this advice, you know, comes from people who say, oh, I've extensively researched essential oils, I know what I'm talking about. It's like, no, clearly you don't, but they come off as knowledgeable. So of course, you know, you expect that you can trust what they say. As we would have expected to hear, they say, oh, it's not from the oils. As a matter of fact, you need to use more oils to combat the rash. The word detox is seen thrown into some of these comments here. By now we should know that the word detox is a word used in hype marketing that in many cases, including when we're talking about essential oils, it means nothing. The rash spread around her entire body, it worked its way up onto her face, and she was swollen up all over. She said she couldn't move her limbs, and the pictures are pretty graphic, so I'm not gonna show them here, but this is a full-on allergic reaction. She got allergy tests and found out that it was ylang-ylang, I don't know how you say that, and tea tree oil that she was allergic to, and it affected her for 5 years after she stopped using the essential oils. And now she says because of this, she's allergic to all essential oils, even the ones that she wasn't allergic to before. But in the meantime, she reached out to the chief medical officer of doTERRA and never received a response. Surprise! Anyway, that's all I have to say about this episode of Unwell. I highly recommend watching the entire episode, and I will continue to watch the rest of the episodes I haven't finished yet. It's a very good show. If you're in my audience, like, you're probably just as into this shit as me. People who drink the Kool-Aid get into some kind of cults in one way or another, you know, naive people being preyed on. This is a pretty good series for you, and I recommend watching it. But hey, I know this was a long one, so thank you for making it to this point. Let's thank my patrons. The biggest thank you in the whole wide world goes to Amanda McMahon, Corey Allison, Irene Nordid, Michelle Matthews, Unknown System Error, Katrina Rosemarick, Elizabeth Wyatt, Karina Winman, Maria Burchett, Meredith Nakata, Molly Larson, Molly Wasilewski, Rach J, Real Fly Realize, Whitney Gregory, April Lindblom, Ashley Nichols, Bobby Boris Geller, Chandrea Christensen, Clark Grace, Daniel Urena, Desiree Lopez, E. Higgins, Evan Adler, Eve Blondo, Hey Felicia 93, JP Regino Schaefer, Jackie Waple, Justin Kelsey, Katie and Nick, Kelly Creffield, Kim Cartwright, Laura Lynn Martin, Maddie Darley, Molly Bresson, Rachel McHenry, Savannah Kirkoskis, Tara Jensen, Tuesday the 13th, Vanda's Closet, Whitney James, and Kat Loves Things and Stuff, and to the rest of my wonderful patrons. And even if you're not a patron, thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. I appreciate you so, so much. Keep making waves, babes. I will smell you guys later. Mommy Tsunami out.